If you've been following this series, you may have noticed a theme. We have talked about nervous system regulation. We talked about emotional release. We've talked about developmental patterns. We've talked about the chakra system. We've talked about timing. We have also talked about pattern recognition. And throughout each of these conversations, I've been pointing to something larger. Something I believe is becoming increasingly important for practitioners because I don't believe the future of healing belongs to any single modality. I don't believe that it's going to belong exclusively to nervous system science. And I don't believe that it's going to belong exclusively to energy therapy. I don't believe it's going to belong exclusively to psychology, coaching, somatic work, or spiritual practice. I believe that the future of healing belongs to practitioners who understand how these pieces fit together. And here's why this matters. The clients arriving in our offices today are very different because they've read books, they've listened to podcasts, they've taken courses, they've done affirmations, they've explored meditation. Many have already participated in therapy, and some have done energy work. Some have done somatic work. Some have done all of the above, and yet many still feel stuck, not because they're unwilling and not because they are resistant, but because understanding isolated pieces of themselves isn't always enough. They need practitioners who can see the whole system. And one of the challenges in the healing professions is that we often become attached to our modality. The therapist sees everything through psychology. The coach sees everything through mindset. The somatic practitioner sees everything through the body. And the nervous system practitioner sees everything through regulation. The energy practitioner sees everything through energy. And while each perspective offers tremendous value, none of them tell the entire story because human beings are not organized into separate departments. Life doesn't happen to the nervous system alone. Life doesn't happen to the energy system alone. Life happens to the person, and the person adapts through multiple systems simultaneously. This is the central idea that I want practitioners to understand. Experiences create organization. A child experiences criticism, and the nervous system adapts. The energetic system adapts. The emotional system adapts. Identity adapts. Beliefs adapt. Relationships adapt. Everything begins organizing around experience. And years later, practitioners often focus on whichever part of that adaptation aligns with their training. But the client is experiencing all of it at once. And this is why healing becomes more effective when we learn to observe systems rather than isolated symptoms. So let's begin with what nervous system science contributes. It helps us to understand capacity, why some clients can tolerate change and others cannot, why some clients become overwhelmed, why some clients shut down, why some clients remain hypervigilant. Nervous system science helps explain physiological adaptation. It helps us to understand safety. It helps us to understand regulation, and that's incredibly valuable. But regulation alone doesn't explain everything. Energy therapy contributes something equally important. It helps us to understand organization, patterns, themes, the ways in which experiences continue influencing perception and behavior. So the chakra system, when understood developmentally, becomes a map of adaptation, safety, connection, power, love, expression, meaning, purpose. These are not abstract spiritual concepts, they're human experiences. And every client organizes around them differently. Developmental understanding adds another layer. It helps us recognize when patterns were formed, how they were formed, why they were formed, and perhaps most importantly, why they once made sense. Because the goal of healing is not to judge adaptation. The goal is to understand adaptation. A child who learned hypervigilance wasn't broken, they adapted. A child who became a people pleaser wasn't weak, they adapted. A child who learned emotional suppression wasn't effective, they adapted. And when practitioners understand adaptation, they stop fighting symptoms and they start understanding systems. And this brings us to one of the biggest mistakes practitioners make, and that is treating symptoms as though they're treating the problem. A client presents with anxiety, treat anxiety. A client presents with burnout, treat burnout. A client presents with relationship struggles, treat relationship struggles. But symptoms are often expressions, they're messengers. They're revealing how the system organized itself. And if we focus exclusively on eliminating symptoms, we may miss the patterns that are creating them. And this is why symptom chasing often leads to temporary improvement, but limited transformation. The practitioner of the future will develop a different skill, the ability to read organization, not just what the client is experiencing, but how they're organized around what they are experiencing, what adaptation is operating, what expectation is present, what identity is being protected, what pattern is being repeated. The level of observation changes everything because now the practitioner is no longer reacting to symptoms. They're understanding the system that produced them. And this is where timing enters the conversation. Because once we understand organization, we realize that change cannot be forced. A system integrates change according to capacity, not according to our agenda, not according to our timeline, not according to the number of certifications that we possess. This is why discernment becomes more important than technique. The question is no longer, what should I do? The question becomes, what is the system ready to receive? And I believe the future practitioner will be defined less by modality and more by observation. They will understand nervous system regulation. They will understand energetic organization. They will understand developmental adaptation. They will understand timing. And most importantly, They will understand how these elements interact, not as competing ideas, but as complementary perspectives, each helping us to understand the complexity of the human experience. The future of healing isn't choosing between science and energy. The future of healing isn't choosing between biology and spirituality. The future of healing isn't choosing between regulation and transformation. The future of healing is integration, the ability to see the whole person, the ability to recognize organization instead of symptoms, the ability to understand adaptation instead of pathology, the ability to support transformation rather than simply manage stress. And I believe practitioners who develop this perspective will become one of the most effective healers in the next generation. If there's one thing I hope that you can take away from this entire series, it's this: healing is not about fixing what's broken. More often, it's about understanding what adapted. Because once we understand adaptation, we stop fighting the system. We begin working with it. And when we work with the intelligence of the system rather than against it, transformation becomes possible. Not because we forced it, not because we controlled it, but because we finally understood it. And in my experience, understanding is where healing truly begins. And if you've enjoyed this series, let me know in the comments what concept resonated with you the most. And if you're interested in learning how I teach practitioners to recognize organization, capacity, timing, and energetic adaptation in real world sessions, I'll share that information down below for training and certification. Because the future of healing isn't about having more techniques, it's about seeing more clearly. Many blessings to you on your journey. Tina Brigitini here.